Okay, we will talk about battery life, all right? But the used EV market is, depending on where you live, you can get behind the used. The used market is not that big, and the way car prices have been changing lately, they were more expensive before, and now they're really good. And what that means is that your car, you thought you were going to need $5,000. So it's a little difficult. And plus the technology of the cars has changed so much that the new cars are actually better.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming here, everybody. I think we're ready to get started. We got the live stream running. We just jumped right in the middle of a little Q&A here. So I'm Evan Zerman. I'm the president of UPEC, Upper Peninsula Environmental Coalition, and I'm so happy to be able to present Steve Waller here to give you a talk about what you need to know about electric cars. So since June of 2022, Steve Waller has driven 40,000 miles in a plug-in electric car, including a 4,100-mile round trip from Marquette to Seattle, Washington. He's listened to the questions, comments, and concerns people have about electric cars and can answer your questions.
Is that my car?
Oh, it is, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So we got the mic here for the Zoom live stream. We don't have speakers in the room here. I can speak up a little bit if you can't hear me. I'm sorry. But this is just for the online audience here, so we can invite everybody else in. Yeah, sorry about that. So in this program, Steve compares the features, limits, advantages, and disadvantages of 12 popular electric vehicles to each other and 3 popular gasoline vehicles. I'm sure he's got plenty to say. And he's going to be back with us next month. So this is the first event of our annual Celebrate the UP. We do this every year. We rotate between Marquette and Houghton and Hancock and Sault Ste. Marie. We were virtual for a few years because of the pandemic. We've been doing everything live. And so just last year, we started going live again. So we're going to be doing it on April 13th at the Orpheum Theater in Hancock. Steve's going to be back with another talk on proforestation. So today we got him for 2 hours here, and we've got his presentation. We've got answers to your questions. I'll be taking online questions too. So if anybody's watching this on Facebook, if anybody joins on Zoom, I can pass your questions along and we can get those answered and address them. So I'm going to hand it off to Steve here. Thank you so much for being here.
Hey, you won't have any trouble hearing my voice. I can tell you that. I've been known to be able to talk straight through cinder block walls. I've had people come around the wall and say, can you quiet down a little bit? So don't worry about it. You will definitely be able to hear me. The program I'm doing down out in Keweenaw, out in Houghton, later on in April is proforestation. It's how to grow a carbon capture forest. So if you ever thought about what carbon capture means as far as a forest is concerned, boy, have I got the information for you, because it's really surprising. There's a lot of things you probably wouldn't know about, and my job is to help you understand that a lot better. So, but today, it's all about electric cars. In June of 2022, I bought my first full-time electric car. I had a little model electric car kit, a conversion kit before that. But now I'm driving full-time electric. And since I've been driving that, I've done 40,000 miles. And like he says, including a trip by myself from Marquette to Seattle, Washington. And it went extremely well, very smooth. I am driving a Model Y, just so you know. This is not a picture of me on the screen. And I would like to give you a rough idea of what we're going to cover here. If I can get the slides to advance. Let's see. I'm going to have to, it doesn't work with arrows. Here it does. Okay. So there's myths, rumors, and concerns all over the place. The biggest barriers to getting an electric vehicle are charging logistics, because people are concerned about that. The distance you can go on a full charge, very probable concern, and the cost of purchasing, owning, and the maintenance of a vehicle. And we're going to cover all that stuff. In fact, we're going to cover even more than that. We're going to compare 12 popular electric vehicles, and we're not talking about hybrids here. We're talking about plug-in electrics. These cars have no engines for gasoline in them. This is strictly plug-in electrics. And to 3 popular gasoline vehicles, so you can make an actual comparison to see what the differences are. Then we're going to look at the advantages, disadvantages, prices, range, charging, safety, and practicality of driving an electric vehicle. But I want to start with a survey first. It's a 1-question survey. It's not a very difficult one. It's very easy. 1 gallon of gasoline weighs 6 pounds. When you burn that in your car, how many pounds of carbon dioxide do you produce? All right, ready? I'm 3. 1, 2, 3. Just shut up. 3. What is it? No. 100? No. 20 because they were in my class last time. Okay, that's a little bit of cheating. In 3 years, 3 years with people that have not already been in my classes, I've only had 1 person, a microbiologist, come and tell me exactly the correct answer. The correct answer is 20 pounds of carbon dioxide. And what typically happens here is people come by and they say, whoa, Steve, just a second here. How do you get 20 pounds out of 6? All right? Am I supposed to believe you? And there's 2 things I have to say. First, I'm never going to tell you to just believe me or trust me. I'm going to tell you, Google me. All right? Google me and you'll see what the answers are. The second thing is that gasoline is a hydrocarbon, hydrogen and carbon. If you take and add the 3 together, hydrogen's the smallest element in the universe. Carbon has a weight of 12. You add the 12 and the 2 ones together, a hydrocarbon has a weight of 14. But when you burn it, that's an oxidizing event. Oxygen comes down, grabs the 2 hydrogens, making H2O, water vapor, and the water vapor goes away when you burn that in your engine. Now, in case you didn't notice it, as I was driving in today, I saw that little white vapor trail leaving from everybody's exhaust pipes today. That's the water leaving the carbon, right? That's the water leaving. But now the carbon's sitting here stuck with nothing connected to it. So it picks up 2 oxygens in place of the hydrogens. So now we have carbon dioxide, carbon with 2 oxygens. Notice when you add the carbon and the 2 oxygens together, it now has a weight of 44 instead of the hydrocarbons 14. And so the carbon dioxide actually weighs a little bit more than 3 times what the hydrocarbon weighed. And that is the reason that 1 gallon of gasoline weighs 20 pounds in carbon dioxide when you burn it. It's not magic. It's not mysterious. It's just chemistry. All right? So when you burn 10 gallons of gasoline, you emit 200 pounds of carbon dioxide. When you burn 100 gallons of gasoline, you emit 1 ton of carbon dioxide. Every 100 gallons you've ever burned in your life has added a ton of carbon dioxide to the air. So the average American car gets 22 miles to a gallon. And if it goes 11,500 miles, you emit about 5 tons of carbon dioxide per year into the air. Now, if you get worse mileage than 22, then you're going to emit more. If you drive more than 11,500, you're also going to emit more. So that's just the reality of burning gasoline in a car. Now, this is something I'm noticing that not a lot of people know. This is the actual atmospheric carbon dioxide levels and the temperatures. This line, this 0 line right here, is if you take the 20th century global temperatures for the last 100-year century, and you average them out, you get this 0 line right here. And what you should notice is that prior times, the temperatures were generally colder than the average. And now, recently, the temperatures are significantly warmer than the average. And most importantly, the young people today have only lived in this part of life. And they think this is normal. But it's not normal. If you have nice silver hair like mine, blonde hair, very, very blonde hair, you lived for a good chunk of your life in this time frame. And if you did, you know that this is not normal. So, interestingly, 2023 just broke, I got this stuff in front of here. 2023 just broke all-time records for temperature, and that's going back 125,000 years. So in the last 125,000 years, that's the last time the global temperatures were this high. And the carbon dioxide level, which is this line, that's the highest it's been in 5 million years. So this has to do directly with carbon dioxide. In fact, the temperature is going to continue to climb. It's just a little bit of a delayed effect here. So what was the last year we broke a cold record? 1904. So you're pretty close. You were seeing this mark here somewhere, but it's 1904. No one alive today has experienced breaking a cold record. And look how far we would have to come down in order to break a cold record. It's ridiculously different than today. All right. You would have to come down from red to below this line. You'd have to come all the way down to here. That's not going to happen. No, not anymore. All right. So, yes.
When you talk about the way hydrocarbons do, you say a molecular, right?
It's the same thing physically.
What the hell can you do with like how many electrons? I'm trying to remember my high school chemistry.
Well, it's the combination of how they combine has to do with the electrons. All right, but the actual weights of them is just what I showed you.
That actually means weight.
Weight, yes, physical weight. In fact, in one of my other programs, in the carbon capture program, I actually asked, how do you weigh a gas? Because, you know, like in your head, it's like, how do you picture a ton of gas? You can't imagine a ton of gas, right? But I show you how it's possible to do it. Yes. That's got people going here. Let me go back up. Okay, here we go.
So, it's a little more than 3 times 6, right?
Yes.
But how come 100 gallons is 300 pounds instead of 2,000 pounds? A little, you know, like a little over 300 pounds of carbon.
1 gallon is 20.
Yeah,
10 is 200.
that's 10 times as much.
Yeah, because you're putting in 10 gallons of gas. 10 gallons of gas gives you 200 pounds of carbon dioxide.
But what I'm not understanding is 6 pounds equals 20. So
6 pounds. Yeah.
Pounds, 1 gallon of gas weighs 6 pounds.
Yes.
Okay.
And 10 gallons of gas is going to weigh 60 pounds. And 100 gallons of gas is going to weigh 600 pounds.
A little bit more than 3 times 6.
Yes, which is exactly what I showed here.
So,
Right. I was trying to shortcut and talk for things we talk about all the time with gallons. Okay. Yeah, 1 gallon is 6, 10 gallon would be 60, which would be 10 times as much carbon dioxide too. Okay, good. I just happy to take these questions because I don't want anyone to be confused. All right. Electric and hybrid vehicles have soared in popularity and notice since 2020. The lines are zooming up, but currently electric cars have gone from maybe 2% or 1% before 2020. They're now about 8.5% of car sales today. And they've got a way to go because gas sales and diesel sales are decreasing. The electric and hybrids are increasing to make up the difference in this gap. but there's a long way to go yet. There's still a lot more gas cars on the road than there are electric cars. All right. Oops, back up again. This year, sales are forecast to grow about 20 or 30% more. That's the forecast for this year, 2024. All right, so let's take a look at the different models. And I just gave everyone here a little bit of a cheat sheet. Let's take a look at that cheat sheet. And there it is. I have it on screen here. And these are the cars we're going to compare. Now, I want to tell you what kind of car we're choosing because I wanted to get something that was going to be practical in case anybody knows anyone who's actually literally interested in doing this. And the way it works is like this. I'm going to go down here. And these are the brands that we already know about. Oh, come on. Don't do that. There we go. These are the brands we already know about: a Chevy Bolt, Nissan Leaf, Hyundai Ioniq 6, Tesla Model 3, Volkswagen ID4. The Tesla Model Y is only green because that's the car I'm driving. The Kia EV6, the Mustang Mach-E Premium, and the Lucid Air. Then in trucks, in electric trucks, the Rivian R1T with the large pack, so it has the longest range. The F-150 Lightning. And by the way, I have a friend of mine in Marquette who just bought an F-150 Lightning. I got to drive it. I was surprised. Very luxurious and comfortable truck. I was surprised. Has its limits, but it was very nice for a driving around truck. Not because they're not selling, because they don't get parts. This is another deal. Okay. So, and of course, GMC had to make an electric Hummer. You got to have a Hummer. Well, they did, and I'll show you why I would never buy that thing, but that's up to me, and it's up to you. Then I want to compare it to a Honda Accord hybrid because that's a popular vehicle, a Subaru Outback, and an F-150 XL gasoline, the most popular vehicle in the United States, mostly. So, all right. So the trick here is this. The trick here is that I chose vehicles that were basically SUVs, and well, you can see sedans and trucks and things like that here. You can see what's what, but also I always picked, when I could, all-wheel drive and LRs for long range. So you can get cars cheaper than this, significantly cheaper than this, but I chose the all-wheel drive long-range version because up here in the UP, that's what we're going to be after. All right? It's just simple as that. So the prices that you're going to see in a little bit are actually higher than it could be if you decided to go with a lower scale or range vehicle. Yeah, there are sedans in here. Well, SUV. All right, so these, right, electric. I've got SUVs. I don't know. It just seems like most people are going for it. That's the only reason. The Model 3 is basically a sedan. I don't know, what did I call a Model 3? Yeah, techie sedan. Okay, so I got one in there. So the Model 3 is considered a sedan. All right, so let's take a look now at the inside of some of these cars, and I'll show you the basic inside differences because I'm sure you haven't seen them before. And let's see how they look from the inside. This is the Chevy Bolt. This is the cheapest car you can get. They did stop, Chevy makes this. They did stop making it this year, but it's still available. It is very popular, which is, I don't know why they stopped making it, but it is very popular. And you can see it's got pretty much a normal dashboard that you would see in any new car today. Yeah, you got a little computer screen, but yeah, you have a speedometer, and you got knobbies all over the place, and a shifting system down here, but you don't have to mechanically shift it because everything is electronic in these cars. So just nice. That's the Chevy Bolt. That's the cheapest car you can get. This is the Hyundai Ioniq 6. This is becoming very, very popular. This is made in South Korea, and again, pretty standard, a little fewer buttons, but not very different. It's got a regular gear shift lever, nothing unusual. This is the F-150 Lightning, and this is the truck. This has got, if you like buttons, this is the car for you. It's got buttons on top of buttons. All right, everything is on buttons. And it also has a computer screen. So now you got a combination of knowing which buttons to push and how to manage the interior computer. But again, like I said, I've driven this car, this truck, and I was very impressed. Very nice vehicle. And this is my car. This is the Model Y. And the difference here is that there's no buttons except for these two here on the steering wheel. That's it. All right. The shifting is done with this lever. Your turn signals are over here. The windshield wipers are automatically turned on. There is a glove box right here, but there's no button or key for the glove box. If you want to open the glove box, you got to go to the computer screen and touch open the glove box, and then it pops open. Everything is done by the computer in this car. There are no buttons. So basically, what you're doing is driving a computer that has four wheels. That's what this car is. Now, if you go and look at your computer and you go, I don't know what this is going to do next, this thing's driving me crazy, then this car is probably not for you because it's completely electronic. Yes. Service is a very good question. I'll talk about that in a little bit. The Tesla is very different than all the other manufacturers. The Ford, there are 2 certified Ford electric car dealer repair people here in Marquette. The other manufacturers should be responsible for their cars up here in Marquette. The Tesla has got a problem, which I will discuss here in a little bit, and has to do with the dealers. So we'll get to that. Okay, now let's take a look at the prices. Let's go back to your sheet here again. And if I look at the prices, you'll notice that they're not quite as expensive as you probably thought. That's because in the last couple of years, the prices have come down considerably due to the potential of a $7,500 tax rebate for an electric car. So you buy an electric car, you get a $7,500 tax rebate. Before it was for almost all the cars on the list, but as of January this year, they changed it. The only ones that are now qualifying for the $7,500 discount is the Chevy Bolt. You see the asterisk right here. That means that you take this price and take $7,500 off that price. So now we're looking at a $25,000 vehicle, electric vehicle. All right, the Nissan Leaf, no. Hyundai, no. Tesla Model 3, no, because of where the batteries come from. Part of the requirement for getting the rebate now is the batteries have to be mostly made in the United States, and now they're importing some batteries for the Tesla Model 3. ID4 Pro actually does qualify for the $7,500. The Model Y does qualify for the $7,500. So subtract $7,500 from these prices. The Kia, no. Mustang Mach-E, no. Lucid Air, no. The Rivian, it gets $3,500. There's a little compromise in there because of the way that one's built. The F-150 Lightning, yes, you get $7,500 off the Lightning. The GMC Hummer, no, thank goodness. Don't be giving people breaks for that thing. If somebody wants to spend that kind of money, they're welcome to it. All right, Honda Accord Hybrid, Subaru Outback, and the gasoline, none of those get a tax rebate as a result. Now, after we've gotten through the prices part, are electric vehicles a luxury? That's a question mark. It used to be above average. The average for all new vehicles was about $48,000. Electric cars used to fall up here, but I just showed you the list now. Now they're falling down into this category in the size, in the price of a full-size car. They're not that expensive anymore. All right. So just so you kind of put that into perspective, I looked outside before I came in here. You know, people were complaining that the prices were too high for electric cars, but the cheapest car is a 2024 Kia Soul. It sells for $20,000. How many are driving one of those? Yeah, I didn't think so. So what I'm saying by that is you're not always going for the cheapest car, even though you say, oh, they're too expensive. Some people are spending $40, $50, $60, $70, $80,000 on their trucks. All right. The price is not what is the problem here. It's people's perception. They're using price as an excuse. There are federal tax credits. There's also state tax credits. Illinois is going to give you $4,000 for buying an electric car. Colorado is going to give you $5,000 to buy an electric car. My own utility company here in Marquette, not Board of Light and Power because I'm not on Board of Light and Power, Alger Delta Electric Cooperative will give you $1,000 if you buy an electric car. All right? So there's rebates on top of the prices that I just showed you. So that's really drawing the price down. They're called incentives because the idea is to try and get you to buy a car. Yes. Some companies do it, some companies don't. I don't know. My car came in before they gave me the credit, so I didn't qualify for it. If you go to the website, you'll see they'll give you 1,000. I don't know exactly which way. Okay. Some people just lease cars and they don't even care about the price. They just want to know how much per month. You can lease electrics for $300 or $400 or some cases 200 and something now, depending on the car you want to lease. But other people choose other reasons. Some people want the look. Some people want just comfort, or they like the stereo, or they've got some particular purpose for that vehicle, and that's the reason they're buying it. But if you did consider electric vehicles, luxury vehicles, oops, I keep pushing the wrong button here. If you did consider electric vehicles to be luxury vehicles, when you compare all the luxury vehicles, and I'm including gas included with luxury vehicles, the number one most popular luxury vehicle is the Tesla. It's beating out BMW and Mercedes and Lexus and Audi and Cadillac, and actually by quite a bit. This is 50,000 in January of last year compared to Volvo, Land Rover are less than 10,000. It's interesting how the changes have happened here. People really like the electric cars. Now, in this program, you're going to hear me talking about Tesla. I'm not here to sell you a Tesla, but I'm going to have to talk to you about Tesla a lot because they have the most electric cars on the road and they have data available. And I can pull that data and share that with you. And so you're going to hear me talking about Tesla, but much of this information from Tesla is going to go to apply to any other electric vehicle that you're hearing about. So I know you can't read this chart, all right? So I will read it for you. The top green bar that goes all the way across the page, and this is for electric vehicles sold in all of 2023 in the United States, all right? United States electric vehicles, these are all electric vehicles sold in the United States. Tesla is this top green line. The next closest competitor, if you want to call it close, is Ford. They've got the Lightning and the Mach-E, Mustang Mach-E. Then you come down to 5% is Chevy. That's the next biggest one. That's the Bolt and I don't know, whatever other electric cars they're selling right now. Rivian, you hear a lot of talk about it, but they only sold about 4% of the electric cars in the United States. So if you go down the line, here's Volkswagen, Audi, Kia, Nissan, BMW, Volvo, Cadillac, Subaru, Toyota, and we're already down into the 0% once you get down to Subaru. They're hardly selling any electric cars because Tesla has sold 60% of all electric cars in the United States in 2023. So just so you're aware of it. Tesla doesn't advertise. You didn't see a Tesla ad in the Super Bowl. No, you didn't. You might have thought you did, but you didn't. There was no Tesla ad at the Super Bowl. You haven't seen a Tesla ad anywhere. They're not advertising in magazines. They're not advertising anywhere. So they don't advertise. And this comes down to the question about where do you get the car serviced? All right. Michigan has laws. And the reason you don't see so many Teslas in particular, or you don't see any Lucids, you don't see hardly any Rivians in the state of Michigan. Michigan has what they call franchise laws. Franchise laws are laws that were created for the benefit of the car dealers. The car dealers do not allow you to buy a car, a Ford, directly from Ford. They won't let you buy a Chevy directly from Chevy. You have to go to a dealer. And if you want to buy a car, that's the only way they will allow you to do that by law in the state of Michigan. Tesla doesn't have dealers. You want to buy a Tesla, you pull out your phone, you go to the Tesla website, and you pick out your car, and it gives you a price, and you go, sold. And then here comes an email that says, it's ready for you to pick up. That's it. There's no dealers, no hassles, no backroom conversations, no negotiation. Here's the price, done deal, no dealer. They're gone, right? So they're banned from selling cars in the state of Michigan. That's the reason you don't see them here. Now, they also banned service centers in the state of Michigan. They made one compromise. If I have to have my car serviced, I have to drive it down to Grand Rapids. No. I had to go to Illinois to buy mine. You can go to Minnesota, you can go to Wisconsin, you can go to Illinois and buy a Tesla. You can't buy them in the state of Michigan. They have showrooms in Michigan. You can look at them. You can't buy them there. You have to pull out your phone and order it. Two things I just mentioned. For Tesla only now, you have to go to Grand Rapids if you need service. Second thing is, I've driven 40,000 miles. The amount of service I've had done on this car is zero. I haven't spent 1 penny on this car in 40,000 miles, except for electricity. Oh, I put windshield washer fluid in. Yes. Because when you do it on your phone, they're going to ask you which state you want to go to pick up your car. You're going to pick it up. Yeah, you're not going to pick it up in Michigan, or they're going to drop it off. You can pay extra to drive it to you. But it's going to be originally registered in that state, and you have to transfer it to the state of Michigan. That's what I had to do. It was originally registered in Illinois with a temporary registration. I drove it to Michigan. I got the permanent registration. Yes. Yes, under certain conditions. Okay, and I'll repeat that for the audience at home here. So, have you had this done yet? Have you need? Was it a trunk latch?
No.
Okay, so this gentleman here had a door handle that had a problem, and he contacted Tesla on the phone, and they sent a tech from somewhere, we don't know, to his house here in Michigan in order to repair the door handle, and that was covered under warranty, and he didn't have to pay for it. Okay, great. Thank you very much. Yes, I have been there. I picked them up because they were Tesla snow tires with all the tire pressure monitors and everything already built into it. So all I have to do is switch the tires myself, switch the wheels myself. And it's a service center. There's a showroom there, but you can't buy them. It's a Tesla service center.
For us, I think it was an option.
Down to Grand Rapids. Okay, but you still bought it in Illinois. Okay, so that was in Chicago. So Yeah, so anyway, I just wanted to let you know that's among the reasons you don't see a lot of these cars here in the state of Michigan. Even though you go downstate near Detroit, you start seeing quite a few. But up here, that's among the reasons you don't see them. Okay. By the way, the Model Y is the world's best-selling model car in 2023. We're talking the entire world. There were more Model Ys sold than any other model. So, range anxiety. All right, here's a huge one. People talk to me about this all the time. How far can you go in an electric car before you run out of battery? And it's the second biggest barrier to people buying an electric car. In the US, the number of electric vehicle options that can go 300 miles or more on a single charge jumped to 30 models at the beginning of 2024, a 500% increase in the past 3 years. Now, on your sheet, you will see a column that says range anxiety right here. This is the EPA's published range for 100% battery charge down to 0. This is what they're rated to go for under the EPA's test conditions. Now, you guys have probably bought cars before that EPA ratings, and you know there's some fudge factor in there. It's not going to be exactly what the EPA says. And we'll talk about that in a little more detail. But this is what's freaking people out, because if you look at the electric vehicles are anywhere from 250 to like 310, with the exception of the Lucid Air. They're all in the 250 to 310 mile range. And people say, well, my gas cars get like 500 miles. So, gee, I don't want to be stuck in the highway someplace. All right. I spent a lot of time talking to people about this and trying to explain the differences. Here's the big differences. If this 250 miles causes you to be concerned, it's because you're thinking like a gasoline driver. And I know that sounds weird, but I'm going to tell you why that's the case. You're accustomed to filling up your tank, driving, and then going to the gas station and filling it up, and then driving and going to the gas station. And so you're trying to break up the space between going to the gas station, so you get a vehicle that has a 500-mile range. Electric cars, and we'll talk about this more in a little bit, are very different because most people charge at home. So this range of 250 to 310 miles is not your weekly range like it would be with your gas car. That's your daily range, because you're going to go home that night and plug in. So how many people here drive 200 miles a day? Almost nobody. So when you get in your car and you start driving, and let's say you put 50, 60 miles in, 70 miles, or even if you used up half of your battery, you did a 100-mile day that day. You get home, you open up the garage, assuming you have a garage, and we'll talk about apartment dwelling later on. You open up the garage, you plug in the car, you leave, you go in the house, you have dinner, you go watch America's Got Talent, all right, or a football game, and then you fall asleep on the couch. Fine. You wake up in the morning, tank is full. Start over again, 200 more miles. So I call this this range that you get from the EPA is your daily range. It is not your total range. And even if you did drive more than that, like when I went to Seattle, Washington, you just stop at a charger and put some more fuel in and go, keep going. So that's the big difference. Yes. First day I went to Duluth, Minnesota.
150 miles.
Yep. On one charge.
Right, and then how long does it take you to full charge?
That's the second most common question that I get. How long does it take you to charge? All right. That's the reason you're here. And I spend time working on that specifically for you. So you're going to enjoy this one when I get to that part. Okay. Yes, sir. Evan. I'm going to do that too. All right. So all these things that people are bringing up is exactly what I've been hearing for the last couple of years. And it's exactly what I'm addressing in this program. Okay. So range anxiety that's the ranges. It has to do with the size of your battery. Now, the problem is that in the past, you might be expecting a gasoline engine to suddenly become more efficient or change the size of the engine. That's not the case here. The motors are already very efficient. What gives you the extra range is the aerodynamics of the vehicle and the size of the battery bank. And if you notice here, the prices go up as the battery size goes up. The ranges go up as the battery size goes up. And this is a problem that I have with the trucks. Look how big the batteries are in the trucks. The cars are about 75. The trucks are about 130, even though they don't get more mileage than the cars do by a whole lot. The trucks have twice the size battery. And that, to me, is a very difficult situation for truck drivers, because that means you have to put in twice as much electricity. That means you're going to be there twice as long charging that truck to go the same distance. It's a very interesting problem. And because the batteries are twice as big as the smaller passenger car batteries, that means the truck has a lot more weight, which drags the car down and causes it to consume more power. It's just like when you guys drive a truck, you have worse gas mileage than a sedan has. You know that, because the trucks are not aerodynamic and they just burn through fuel. Well, they burn through electricity too. So just a thought. All right, we'll come back to this in a bit. So I just want you to get that connection. Price, range, and battery size are all kind of interconnected. Now, I say kWh, which I'm calling the tank, kilowatt hours. I assume most people are not very electrical. So let's go through just a little bit here, just so that we're on the same page as far as how this works out. And we'll go back here. Okay. A microwave oven. You cook with your microwave oven. It typically uses 1,000 watts of electricity. All right. 1,000 watts of electricity is 1 kilowatt. So that's how powerful your microwave is, 1 kilowatt. So every time you hear kilowatt, think of microwave. Think of microwave. Every time you hear kilowatt, microwave. Now, if you use that for 1 hour, you've used up the energy of 1 kilowatt hour. And there's a difference between power and energy. People use them together, but they're not. Power is how strong something is. Energy is how much of it did you use? How much of that strength did you use? So if I have 1,000 watts and I run that for 1 hour, I use up 1 kilowatt hour of energy. And Marquette Boiler Light and Power and Alger Delta Electric Cooperative are charging about 15 cents for a kilowatt hour. That's what you're paying. Yes.
That's not what we're paying.
You're probably, yeah, you're 25 cents a kilowatt hour, right? Okay. So you're 25 cents a kilowatt hour. So whatever prices I mentioned here, you double it, because that's what it's going to be for you. All right. I'm just, okay. Yes. All right, here we go. So kilowatt hour is the gasoline of an electric vehicle. All right. Now, where do you put all that gasoline? Well, you put it in your batteries, and the batteries are typically under the seats on the floor. This is where all the batteries are located. You're sitting on top of the batteries. So they're covered by steel plates for protection, and it gives it a very low center of gravity. It makes these things really hard to flip. I mean, it's really hard to flip an electric vehicle. Motors are near or on the axle. Those are the red things. Now, this is an all-wheel drive, so the motor's in the front and the back. There is no drive shaft like you would have in a more gasoline-powered vehicle with only one engine. These have two motors, front and back motor. And they have far fewer parts to fail. That's why there's almost no maintenance. The space in front of the motor and the space behind the rear wheels are safety crunch zones, which also adds to their safety factor. So you've got places furthest to go. The Model Y wins the 2023 Safety Award with a near perfect safety rating And I have lists here for accidents and about a car that went off a 250-foot cliff with 4 people in it and everybody survived, which was kind of interesting. And the car did not start on fire, just so you know. We'll talk about that. All right. But Tesla's 75 kilowatt hour battery pack, which is in my Tesla right now, sitting outside, looks like this if you took all the covers off. And every one of those little dimples that you see here is a battery. Actually, they're called cells, but they work together to output massive amounts of power. There's 4,500 of these things in there. Each cell is slightly bigger than a AA battery. That's an actual Tesla battery. All right, there's 4,500 of them. They're typically made today of lithium ion cells or cobalt-free lithium ion phosphate. Future cells can be different. The chemistry for batteries is changing all the time, trying to find cheaper, longer laster, more specialized type of battery conditions. Ford's battery packs are different. Ford's battery packs look like this. Here's the nickel cobalt manganese battery, and these are the lithium iron phosphate batteries. That's what Ford is using. So they have their own battery system, and that's what they're using. It's under construction. There's a battery manufacturing plant under construction called the Blue Oval Battery Park in Michigan. And the site is at Marshall, Michigan, but it's been facing its fair share of challenges from the get-go, both from a legal perspective and from citizens. Lawmakers are concerned that Ford Motor Company is going to license it from China-based CATL company to make the batteries there. Some local residents have been fighting the future plant in court. And that's an issue. So it's slowing down the production of batteries, which sometimes makes it hard to get the parts that you need to build a car if they slow all this down. All right. How long do the batteries last? We just had this conversation here. People were telling me, well, yeah, but after 5 years, you're going to have to change that battery out. And I'm going, no, you don't. Here's the way it works. Now, this is Tesla information because they've got the data. They've been putting out electric cars for 10 years or more, and they've been keeping records. So here's the way it works. You buy a new car on day one, it has 100% battery capacity. After about 50,000 miles, you've lost about 5% of the battery's capacity. But once you've lost that 5%, for the next 200,000 miles, actually additional 150,000 miles, you only lose maybe 5% more. So after 200,000 miles, the experience has been they only lose about 10% of their capacity. Losing 10% of capacity means you have 10% less mileage, 10% less range. All right? Yes. Well, let me bring up the next slide here. By law, they're required to have an 8-year, 100,000 mile battery warranty that says you will have no less than 70% of range over 100,000 miles. Some manufacturers have longer warranties. Mine is 120,000 miles. They normally last the life of the car, and the design life is 300,000 miles. So if you're outside the warranty and you've done over 120,000 miles in your car and the battery seems to have degraded to a point, it's not going to quit unless there's some catastrophic thing. If it degrades to the point where you're not happy anymore, you're probably going to sell the car and get a new one that has bigger battery, more power, go farther yet, and be fresh. But the design life is for 300,000 miles. So I just saw that GM is recalling 3 different trucks for a 1500 series engine for cracked engine blocks. They're going to replace the engines for free. Interesting. So it's not unique, but the percentage of car replacement, battery replacements is really low. Way lower than what people think it is. Yes.
You're talking just Teslas here.
These are Tesla's records. All right. I can't get it from Ford.
I have a lease,
Okay.
2000 of the potentiometer on it only goes up to maybe 30, 35, which is fine for me around.
When you say potentiometer, you mean the capacity?
Yeah,
35 what?
miles.
Your range.
Yeah,
You probably have a small battery pack.
no, the used one. I bought it for 15,000 miles. it's got 45 on it now. And it'll only go up to, I call it the potentiometer, because
Okay,
it's gonna change if you go uphill, downhill, it's gonna add and subtract.
okay. Nissan Leaf has got a whole range of conditions that you have to think about. It does not have any battery temperature control. And in 2011, you said that's what year it was? Okay, very early state for electric cars. So that's totally different than what you're going to have today. In fact, the Nissan Leaf, I think I have on the list, right?
I have one.
I know. Right. Well, as far as warranty, I think you're out of warranty. You're probably out of warranty. Yeah. Okay. Well, you actually had the least expensive vehicle out there that I can think of here, because even if you go back to our list, here's the Nissan Leaf with a range of 237. All right. If you're getting 35, well, then that's another situation entirely. We'd have to go back and see in 2011 how big was the battery that they were selling. That's a good question, because a lot of cars did not get this long mileage until recently. So I wish I could give you more information on that, but I don't know that much about a 2011 car. Yes.
All right. What's my concern on this one? On emissions.
Mhm.
But have there ever been any studies done to generate the electricity? Just to generate.
Yes, there have been a study done, and you will see the results here very soon. Yes, that has all been discussed. So I'm going to bring that. I'll show you. All right, I will show you what's going on. Every mine is horrible. Yes. All right. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
With the ever-changing technology,
Mhm.
it seems to me it'd be wiser to lease one than to buy one.
That's actually a very interesting point. So you've got a very good point there. Yeah. So, and just for the folks at home, the comment was, in case you didn't hear it, with the technology changing so much, it might be a better idea to lease them than it is to buy one. And I think that might be a really good idea.
Yeah.
Yes. You were going to make a comment?
I can agree with the leasing part. I've been doing it. Okay, and one thing, how many miles?
Okay.
In 3 years.
Oh, you won't do that in 3 years.
Oh,
No. You won't get 300,000 miles in
I like
3 years.
a year.
Exactly. That'd be a huge year.
30,000.
Yes.
We got 2 cars.
All right. Here's the other thing that comes up all the time: battery fires. All right.
Oh,
I heard the batteries go on fire, and here's a problem here. The batteries, we can't have that. You probably heard this: when electric cars get in accidents, they explode, they catch fire very, very badly because of the lithium batteries. And Pauletta fact checked this out, and I said, no, that's not true. So see, the message is like this. They suggest that many electric vehicles burn up like this. Well, wait, that's not an electric vehicle fire. That's the gas-powered Mini Cooper fire that killed Ann Hetchy and also started a house on fire. And by the way, I got a link down here to Ford recalls for certain vehicles that are run the risk of starting a fire too. So that's a problem. But here is the worst, I should say, EV fire that I could find. All right. And this looks like a Tesla Model 3. If you wanted to ask my opinion on it, from what's left of it, I'd say a Tesla Model 3. So which burn more, gas or electric? All right. Auto Insurance Z studied the frequency of fires from all causes, including collisions in automobiles in 2021. Hybrid vehicles, which have an internal combustion engine and an electric motor, had the most fires, 3.5%. Vehicles with just an internal combustion engine placed second at 1.5%. Fully electric vehicles had the fewest at 0.025%. Almost no electric car fires, but when they do burn, they make the news. You'll hear it big time, all right? But they barely ever burn. Now, here's more miles from Tesla because they've got millions of miles worth of data. And this is progressing from 2018, 19, 20, and 21's worth of data. The blue bar is the average in the United States, according to the National Fire Protection Association and the U.S. Department of Transportation. They're saying every 19 million miles, a car is going to burn. That's what that blue bar is. All right. But Tesla says you got to go 210 million miles before you're going to burn a Tesla. That means you're going to be 11 times more prone to a car fire with gasoline than you are with a battery car. So this is a really important point. So yeah, you're going to hear about it in the news, all right? But it's a really rare event. And that's coming from data. Now, car batteries destroy the environment and violate human rights to address this lady's point right here. And here's my first response. Oil production destroys the environment and violates human rights. Think about how many wars have been fought over oil. Think about how many environmental catastrophes we've had over oil. So that is a factor. Human rights can be addressed through legislation. Battery chemistry, car and cell phones will evolve, and the chemistry is evolving because you can go to the lithium iron phosphate batteries and you don't use cobalt at all. That's gone. We're talking potentially about solid state batteries in the not too distant future, and that's going to make a difference as well. So climate change is a bigger and more urgent and global environmental concern than battery production is. Now we'll get into other issues like recycling and that too. Okay. He's taping it now. He's taping it now.
Are you gonna put it on TV?
He's going to put it on the internet.
Oh.
You'll be good. Yes.
All right.
Okay, so you can't fix fossil fuel, and waiting to electrify is going to make things worse. So just recently, the McDermott caldera straddling the border of Oregon and Nevada is going to hold 20 to 40 million metric tons of extractable lithium, which makes it the largest known lithium deposit in the world. And it was the site of a volcanic eruption 16 million years ago. The states of Georgia, Kentucky, and Michigan are going to dominate electric vehicle battery manufacturing in the United States by 2030. They're trying to get these places built and have them start producing locally here in the United States. By the way, batteries, just because we're going to get off batteries now, batteries are recyclable, 98% recyclable. So when your battery dies, and you send that car in, they can pull the battery out and recycle it and make another battery out.
You know, this is not trying very hard with the older car.
Well, it depends. You won't be able to just throw the battery away. They're going to have to pull the battery out. So that battery is going to get recycled. Or repurposed. Another option for batteries, car batteries, is that when the car batteries get old, they're used up or no longer suitable for a car, then you can take them out and use them for storage. So utility grade storage, just stacking up these batteries almost as they are, hooking them up and using them for utility grade storage. They're not good for driving, but they're fine for storage. All right, so let's take a look at the next column on your sheet there. And that column is going to be miles per gallon or miles per gallon E. That little letter E at the end is for equivalent miles per gallon, all right? And you'll notice that all the electric cars are over 100 miles per gallon, with the exception of the Mustang. They're over 100 miles per gallon, except for the trucks. The trucks are down lower because that's what I told you about before. They're less efficient. And they're obviously way more efficient than the gas vehicles are. So let's take a look at this for a second. This here is what is called a Moroni sticker. You guys have probably all seen this before. And let's take a look at this first one. This is a gasoline vehicle. It says it gets 26 miles per gallon. I don't know what car this is. This is just a typical sticker off of a car. It gets 22 in the city, 32 on the highway. It takes 3.8 gallons of gasoline to go 100 miles. It'll cost you $2,150 for a year's worth of fuel. And the cost of fuel on this sticker is rated or estimated to be $3.70 a gallon, which is pretty much what I think you guys are paying today. So basically, it's pretty accurate for today's prices. And because it was more efficient than the standard is 22 miles per gallon. because this is 26 instead of 22, you save $1,850 in gas over 5 years. So now let's take a look at an electric vehicle. And here we have 119 miles per gallon equivalent. How on earth can you compare an electric car to a gasoline car? Like, how can that possibly make sense? How can you do it? What is this, just a wild estimate or what? And no, it's not a wild estimate. Here's how it works. To compare gasoline to electricity, you need a unit that's common to both of them, all right? So what you do is you say, how much energy in the form of heat is contained in a gallon of regular gasoline? We want to get the energy that's in a gallon of gasoline and find out how much energy there is in that gallon, because that's what we're talking about for efficiency, all right? So it turns out to be 114,500 BTUs of heat. Okay, we're not all heat specialists, so we don't know what that means. 1 BTU will raise a pound of water 1 degree Fahrenheit. 114,500 BTUs will raise 13,729 gallons of water 1 degree Fahrenheit. That's a swimming pool, 20 by 20, 4 foot deep. Okay, so 1 gallon of gasoline will increase the temperature of that swimming pool by 1 degree Fahrenheit. Got it. Now, how much electricity is required to heat the same swimming pool the same 1 degree? And it turns out to be 33.7 kilowatt hours. Run your microwave oven for 33.7 hours, and you will increase the temperature of that swimming pool by 1 degree. All right. So 1 gallon of regular gasoline equals 33.7 kilowatt hours of electricity. Now we have something that's measuring the same amount of energy. Now, an EV that can travel 100 miles on 33.7 kilowatt hours gets 100 miles per gallon. Here, we're seeing that this car only needs 30 kilowatt hours to go 100 miles. Less than the whole 33.7. If you gave it to 33.7, it would go 119. It only needs 30 kilowatt hours to go 100. That's because gasoline engines are typically about 20% efficient. Electric vehicles are about 85 to 90% efficient. Big difference. That number is real, that it gets the equivalent of 119 miles to a gallon. Now, here's our daily range again. I'm going to keep saying daily range so I burn it into your head. Here's your daily range of 245 miles. This is the next thing that freaks people out. It says charge time, 8 hours at 240 volts. The 8 hours of charging is in your garage or at some low speed, what they call level 2 charger. That's to go from 0 all the way up to 100%. You never do that. Well, I should say, I've never done it in 40,000 miles, all right? The most I've gone is like 6% to 100. And I did it at a fast charge. I have never done that with a home charger because I didn't need to. I never needed to. But that's just giving you a standard of how big your battery is. And so is this giving you a standard on how big your battery is. And so is this giving you a standard on how big your battery is. So when you take those factors into consideration, the annual fuel cost is $540 a year. Now people will say, oh, great. Now my electric bill is going to like go through the roof, right? Because I have an electric car. It's going to go through the roof. I'm going to be like, how am I going to afford the electric bill if I get an electric car? Well, if you have $540 and you divide it by 12 months, that's $45 a month for electric fuel. He and Houghton, or Kevanaugh, Houghton, Hancock, Houghton. Okay, you're going to spend $90 to go on a month for fuel. You know what's funny though? People keep forgetting that you spend $179 a month for gas. And that's if you get 26 miles to a gallon. And I'll bet you a bunch of you guys don't get 26 miles to a gallon. That's just a guess on my part. So if you got 26 miles to a gallon, you're spending $179 a month for fuel. So it's actually going to be way cheaper, depending on your electric rate, it's going to be way cheaper to drive electric than you are to drive gasoline. I work it out in my car and I have all the math to show you. I drive for 4 cents a mile in electricity. 4 cents a mile. What's the going rate for mileage now? 60 something cents a mile. I take my electric car. I'm making money hand over fist on this break that you get.
Okay, so. Making a trip to Detroit.
Yes, I've done it many times. I'll show you the map.
And, I would easily.
Okay. Okay.
Fill up, it's 5 minutes to make it to Detroit, no problem.
Mhm.
So say I take my Tesla.
To Detroit.
Meyer and Gaylord, plug it in, how long is it gonna get me to a full charge?
I'm coming to it.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna-
Not yet. Not yet. We're getting there though. We're getting close. Okay, so this is going to answer a lot of questions in these next couple slides coming up here. So if you have a pickup truck, you're spending $220 a month. If it gets 21 miles per gallon, it's $220 a month for fuel. So electric vehicles are going to be a lot less expensive. So on the gas car, you save $1,850 over 5 years. On the electric car, you save about $10,000 in fuel. Subtract that from the cost of the car. Interesting. All right. Here's something you probably didn't notice. In the city, you get 22 miles per gallon. On the highway, you get much better mileage, 32. Look at the electric car. You get better mileage in town than you do on a highway. In town, you get very good mileage. I've taken this car and I've optimized this. I said, I'm just going to drive this thing in town. I go and I fill up at Myers because I don't go there too often. Probably in the 2 years I've owned the car, I've maybe been to that Myers charger like twice or maybe 3 times, right? But I went and filled up on that day and I said, I'm just going to drive around town and let the car tell me how far he thinks the range is. And if I just drive around town, I got up to 750 miles of range in town. Because I kept my speed down. Watch this. Here's the way most ICE cars, ICE means internal combustion engine, all right, gasoline cars. Most ICE cars show the same pattern of efficiency. When you're in town, your mileage stinks. When you get up to about 40 to 60 miles an hour, then you're at your maximum efficiency. And once you go over 65, that's the 65 mile an hour line, your efficiency drops again. But your tank is so big, you don't care. You're more in a hurry. You want to get there. So you drive fast, right? And that's the way that works. Even though it's against the law, you still drive fast. All right. Now, take a look at, okay, it's worse in town than the EPA estimates. The EPA estimates come up with a combination of 45 and 55% of city versus highway driving. And this is where they give you the estimates for your vehicles, right in this range someplace. Not at the maximum, not at the minimum, but somewhere in between. All right, electric vehicles are a little different. They max out between right around 25 miles an hour. City driving is where you get maximum range. This is an actual Chevy Bolt range, real world Bolt, blue line, 400 and I'll say 10 miles of range on a Chevy Bolt, which doesn't get 410 miles of range according to the EPA. But the actual mileage is 410 miles if you only drove it in the city. And then when you go over 65 miles an hour, you're driving below 250 miles of range. That's a huge difference, but it comes down to the speed of your car. The biggest factor that sucks up your battery power is the speed of your car. Drive slower, you'll go farther. Yes.
So that EPA rate listed on the sticker, what speed is that? Gauge that. When you see it'll go 200, it'll set it to go 300 miles.
Okay.
They're talking, so which speed is that? Is there?
It's going to be at a temperature of about 70 degrees. And it's going to be the same thing, 45% city driving, 55% highway.
I go 80. less range.
Absolutely. Yes, you will get less.
So what's mile per hour was that sticker range based on?
They're assuming it's going to be at, I think, 70 miles an hour for highway driving. I think that's what they're assuming. Okay. So here are the factors that impact electric car. Wind resistance. The sedans are very sleek and streamlined. They just slice through the wind. In fact, they have a number called the coefficient of drag, and that actually helps them calculate how far the cars will go. The high speed decreases the range, but not the power. They're still super powerful. One of the things that's very interesting is that these cars are instantly responsive, super snappy. You step on that pedal, boom, you're up at speed almost instantly. It's incredibly fast. The Bolt's actual EPA range is considered 247 miles, and you can see it's a compromise. This is the Bolt's range, and yet the blue line is the actual range. And so you can see right here, they're saying that's probably, if you combine the two, you're like going 65 the whole time. So they're probably estimating your highway miles at 70 or so, which is going to take some of this into combination. So that's the way it works out, 247 miles. All right, here's the next one. I get this question all the time. Whoa, what's going to happen when it's 22 below zero? All right, all the time. Marquette's coldest month is January, or at least it used to be. All right, the average temperature overnight is supposed to be 3 degrees above zero. That's the average temperature overnight. And here's the way I answer this question. What happens when it goes below 22 below? It starts. It runs. Even if it's colder. You don't worry about your electric light turning on at 22 below zero. It's going to turn on. This car will start no matter what the temperature is. I don't know what the bottom end is. Yeah, there's compromises a little bit as far as range and things like that, which we just talked about a second ago when the temperature drops. We're going to talk about it when the temperature drops. But in reality, these cars are not a problem. I can rely on it to start no matter how cold it gets. Now, there's a condition called preconditioning. And preconditioning means two things. The manufacturers are a little sneaky about this word. Some manufacturers think preconditioning means you're going to preheat the car so it's nice and warm when you get in. What I'm concerned with is battery preconditioning. Battery preconditioning actually heats the batteries before you get in and warms the batteries up to give them the optimum performance and optimum range. So it uses power from your garage wall and heats the batteries up as you're driving. Or preconditioning will heat your batteries up as you're getting close to the charger you're going to be charging at on your long trip where you're not going back home. So it will actually heat the batteries up on the way to the charger. Yes.
So if you haven't been in a motel,
If you charge in a parking lot,
if you're not hooked up to a charger,
right, you will. If you're not hooked up to a charger on some cars, it won't do that. But you will, on most cars, you will preheat the inside, but you might not preheat the battery. With a Tesla, you do.
And that's separate from you telling me I want to park inside.
there's a setting for that.
Yes,
So that's if you're not plugged in.
if you're not plugged in.
All
All right.
Which is gonna decrease your rate.
Yes. There's all kinds of compromises.
You will.
I'm waiting for society to evolve to where everybody has. Ours. Half an hour, 35.
Okay.
Things you do. Never had to spend more than an hour charging up on.
Never. Not ever.
I was the point we talked about with the heat, let's see,
Or what?
heat, you know. It's cold outside, get your heater on in your car.
Oh, yeah, that's on my next slide. Okay. Okay, so here is range versus temperature. All right. And here is the EPA's range. This is 100% of where the EPA thinks the temperature is going to be. So it guesstimates it right around here at 72 degrees. You probably get a little better than what they're estimating. And again, it depends on how you drive the car. You'd have to drive the car at the speed that the EPA tests it at in order to get that. But as a reference point, 72 degrees is your sweet spot. And anything below 50 or above 90, you're going to start to lose range. All right. Now, cold or hot batteries reduce the EPA's estimates. Preconditioning will even cool the batteries if your car has that feature. So if it gets too warm, it'll cool the batteries. So all of this is trying to keep the batteries giving you the most range you could possibly get. Snow tires slow the car down a little bit. They are higher resistance. It's more drag on your car. It consumes battery power. Thicker winter air, believe it or not, the air is thicker in the winter, and it slows your car down. Snow and slush on the road sucks up some more battery power. The interior of your car, I told you I was going to get there, actually causes you to use more battery power, and that's the reason that you want to buy a car that has a heat pump in it. Heat pumps are 3 to 5 times more efficient than an electric heater. I know this sounds weird. I have also installed a heat pump. I'm putting a heat pump program together right now. You use about a third to a fifth of the energy to heat that space with a heat pump than you would with an electric space heater. No, there's no. Yes, it does. With all the waste heat from the engine, yes. It's it's a longer conversation, but I'll give you a quick summary. You don't have the liquid to move it around, but you do have refrigerant that's going to your motors, and it's going to anything else that creates heat, like your computers and all, and it steals all that heat and starts using it. There is heat in the air, even though you think it's cold outside. My heat pump heats my house even when it's 0 outside.
Is a heat pump?
Yes. Well, actually, the new cars now, the newest ones, the best ones are coming with a heat pump. But that's only the last couple of years. Air conditioning is easy. Air conditioning is a no-brainer. A heat pump does the same thing that an air conditioner does, except it does it the opposite. Air conditioner takes the heat from your car and puts it outside, and a heat pump takes the heat from outside and puts it in your car.
Air conditioning is so low.
Yeah. Everything. I mean, if it takes energy, it's going to consume battery power. But that's minimal compared to the speed of your car. Speed of the car is the biggest factor. So heating the cab is a factor, but it's not the factor. It's not a big factor. So just so you know. Okay. So let's say we're going to look at 20-degree temperatures. And my EPA range is 250 miles. All right. If it were a good day. Then at 20 degrees, that 250 daily range is going to be 187. Now, if I don't drive 187 in a day, I know the 500 miles out of it. If I don't drive 187 miles in a day, I won't have to stop at another charger. I'll just go home and plug in. If I do less than 187 in a day, okay? So this is the thing. Yes, you lose power as the temperature drops, but it's manageable because your daily range is still in excess of what you actually drive. And if you do drive more than 187 miles, you stop at Myers and you stop there for 5 minutes and you put 50 miles back in the car in 5 minutes. Okay. Cold temps reduce regenerative braking. Here's another one called one-pedal driving. On electric cars, when you take your foot off the accelerator, notice I didn't call it the gas. When you take your foot off the accelerator, the car's energy gets taken and put back into the battery. And when you take energy and put it back in the battery, the car slows down because the energy is disappearing. So you can literally drive that car without touching the brakes. You can accelerate it and decelerate it just with your accelerator pedal. And it takes a little bit for people to get accustomed to it, but you don't need the brakes. You can, if you're good at knowing when to take your foot off the pedal, it'll slow down. And that's called regenerative braking. Now, if the batteries are really cold, then you can't do that. If your batteries are full, then you can't use regenerative braking because there's no place to put the power. But that's a factor. When the car warms up, your regenerative braking comes back and the car warms itself up quickly, and pretty soon you get your regenerative braking back. Electronically.
Turbo electric must. Thing I like the most about it. It was great. That was great for snow.
That's a nice smooth braking too. I was concerned about losing traction in the snow and on the ice, and I don't. So these things have so much feedback and so much control, traction control. They got this all figured out.
Lower to the ground is a bigger thing. So.
Yes.
Concerned about that.
My concern with my Tesla, I have 6.5 inches of ground clearance on my Tesla. All right, that's not a lot, but once the roads are plowed, it doesn't matter. So, and it dries well in the snow. So I'm not complaining about that.
I'd say in Houghton, you don't have to worry about it, but that's just.
Well, in Houghton, you got some hills that are pretty scary, even in the summertime. You know, there's some stuff going down to the lake down there that are just crazy. So, okay. So this preconditioning feature, again, preconditioning, it optimizes the battery temperature for regenerative braking and for winter charging. This is another factor. When the batteries are cold, they charge slower. So that's why you want the preconditioning to bring the battery temperature up. So when you plug in, you get maximum power into your battery. Okay. Oops. Let's go back to this sheet now, the miles per gallon thing. All right, so 1 watt-hour of energy per mile. How many watt-hours of energy per mile? So instead of kilowatt hours, this is 293, not 1,000, but it takes 293 watt-hours to go 1 mile. And you can see that as you go up here, these consume more power to go 1 mile. The trucks use a lot more power to go 1 mile. And I calculated out the equivalent here. The gasoline cars go a whole lot more to go 1 mile. So that's the purpose of that column, is to show you how much energy per mile you consume. But that's important because if you go 50 miles, you've used up 14, let's say 15 kilowatt hours. If your charger at home can provide 7 kilowatt hours of electricity, if it can't, 7 microwave ovens running all the time out of your outlet in the wall. And I'm going to get to that a little bit. But if you get 7 kilowatt hours out of it and you only need 14.7 because you only did 50 miles today, your car will be charged in 2 hours at home in your garage. So when you get home after driving 50 miles, you plug it in, 2 hours later, it's going to say, oh, car's charged. Just so you know. That's the time frame. Yes.
For the charge, how long does it take to charge? Say you're at 7%, how long would it take to get up to?
I'm going to get to that. Okay. So I'm just saying how much it takes to put power into the car to go 50 miles and recover your 50 miles worth of charge. Now, how quickly you put that in is going to depend on several factors, and that's what we're going to go into in a little bit. Okay. I chose this in particular, this photograph in particular, because this is how 85% of the people charge their car. Do you have a garage charger? You have a garage charger? You have a garage charger? Everybody's got a garage charger, right? That's what they're doing.
I have 40-something panels on my building.
What do you mean 40?
Solar panels.
Oh, so you're solar power. Okay. That's going to be important when we get down to the fuel source question that she was asking here too. I actually buy renewable energy from Alger Delta. And so my car is powered with renewable energy. Okay. Yes. Well, in a way, in a way it does. In a way, this gets a little more complicated because I taught renewable energy classes at Northern for a couple of years, and we actually calculated how much solar you would need on your house in order just to charge a car for a year, assuming normal conditions. And it's 2,000, and located in this area, it's 2,750 watts of solar panels. And so that's a good portion of somebody's roof. Like half the roof is going to be, how many watts do you have? You know? You got 10 kilowatts? 10 panels.
Solar panels.
Okay. Yeah. So you probably don't even have enough power to completely charge a car. Of course, you've got a smaller car and you probably don't drive it that much. Right. So maybe you get away with less. But if you drive the average number of miles, it's going to cost about 2,700 watts of solar panels on your roof per year to charge that car. Yeah, I actually, the house that I live in most of the time is solar powered, and solar panels are really, really cheap if you do the installation yourself, you know, and what you're paying mostly for are the installation costs more than anything else. Okay, but even if you do have to pay to add one of these in your garage, now here's two options. Here's the outlet that somebody put in here. It's like an electric range outlet or a dryer outlet. And then they plug this box into it, and then the box has a connection to the car. Even if you have to pay an electrician to come by and put all this stuff in here, there's a 30% tax credit for the total installed cost, which includes the cost of this box and all the material and all the labor to put it in. There's a 30% tax credit up to $1,000 for doing that. So if you're interested in putting one in your garage, you can get that tax credit. All right, so how do you charge a car? This is the slowest possible way to charge your cars with a regular outlet. When you hear people say, oh, it takes 12, 14, 20 hours, right? That's because they're plugged into this. All right. Now, some people, were you just saying that you're fine with a level 1 charger? Okay. Who had a level 1? Okay.
We were not.
Right. If you're not driving a whole lot of in fact, the guy with the F-150 Lightning has driven all winter and charged on this outlet. He occasionally goes to Myers to perk up, but most of the time this is enough, even though you only get about 4 miles per hour of charge, 4 or 5 miles an hour per charge. All right. So you don't get a whole lot of charge out of it. This thing is really designed for your microwave oven and no more than that. That's what it's designed for. So instead, it's called a level 1 charger, and you get 2 to 5 miles of range per hour out of that outlet. You do more than that, you break a circuit breaker. You pop a circuit breaker, and you don't want to do that. All right. So here's the better one. This one is a 240 volt up to 48 amps, which is a 60 amp breaker. And you can get up to 11.5 kilowatts, 11.5 microwaves all at the same time, right? That's how much power you're getting, 11.5 microwaves all at the same time. That's designed for an electric range, or you can get one that's slightly smaller for a dryer. And that one is going to get you 10 to 30 miles of range per hour. So if you plug into that, and by the way, preconditioning doesn't matter for this because your charge rate is so low that it's going to take the full charge. You're only getting 11.5 kilowatts out of this. So it's not a big deal. You don't have to worry about pre-charging or the temperature of the car or anything like that. But you're going to get 10 to 30 miles of range per hour on that. So 4 hours, you got 120 miles of charge. Okay. This is a level 3 charger. Level 3 is 50 to 350 microwave ovens at the same time. These things are hugely powerful. And they'll give you 150 to over 350 miles per hour of charge. Now, we're going to look at the charge rates, which is going to vary. But when I first plugged my car into a 250, not 350, I plugged my car into a 250 kilowatt charger, supercharger. It charges at a rate of 1,000 miles per hour of charge. It just doesn't stay there. It tapers down from that point. But it starts out putting 1,000 miles of charge in there per hour. So if I'm there for 10 minutes, I got 100 and something miles worth of charge. It's the tail end that's slower, and we'll look at the charts on that. So these level 3 chargers look something like this. This is Electrify America. These are for non-Tesla cars, but with an adapter, you can plug your Tesla in there too. And these are the Tesla chargers. And the Tesla chargers were originally designed just for Teslas, but just this month, they're opened up to non-Tesla cars, and you have to have an adapter. So Ford is shipping out adapters to people that already own Mustangs and already own Ford Lightnings. They're getting a free adapter in the mail. They just have to order it, but they're going to get it in the mail so that they can now charge at these Tesla chargers anywhere in the country. Yes.
You have 3 ranges of home charge.
2 ranges of home chargers, 1 range of supercharger.
Okay, so I've got 220 in my garage.
Yes.
So give me something to ask me.
Yes, I can. I will show you here. Just you ask all the kids. I love it. It's not super critical. You just don't get the maximum range. No, if the car is plugged in and you tell it the precondition, it's going to warm up the batteries using building power. It won't use up the battery power. It'll use building power and warm up the batteries so that you got an optimum condition when you leave. If you don't precondition or you don't tell the car, if you surprise the car, we're going on a trip, all right? And you jump into the front seat, well, the batteries may be cold, and that's going to reduce your capacity a little bit. If it's a summer day, it won't make any difference at all. Yes. Yes. And all you do is tell it to warm up the interior, and you'll get these 3 little, in our car, you'll get the 3 little squiggly lines that says your preconditioning. So, it's not a big deal. I don't find it a big deal because I got more than enough range for what I want to do. Okay. All right. So there's a bunch of different companies that are here, a bunch of different companies making chargers. There are chargers for apartments also. If you're in an apartment or condo living, you can use the public chargers like the superchargers or the fast chargers that I just showed you, or there's tax credits for adding charging stations to homes and businesses. Again, it's 30% of the cost of the tax credit. And for businesses, you can get up to $100,000 tax credit for putting it in your business. Now, if you're a condo owner, all right, put some chargers in. And people who drive electric cars will love staying at your place. They'll probably even pay the premium because they can, wow, charge right there. That's great. All right. But there are tax credits available, 1,000 for residential and up to 100,000 for businesses. So why not suggest it? And there are documents available for educating condo owners and apartment owners. Maybe no one's even asked. You know, I mean, sometimes you ask and you get stuff. Okay, so there's lots of places you can charge as long as you don't get iced out. Now, this is what iced out means. An internal combustion engine guy hates electric cars, so he decides he's going to take and occupy all the spaces so no one can charge. All right, look at this next guy. I identify as a Prius. Look where he put the charge cable. Look at this. Come on. You're American. Yeah, you're American. All right. Okay, here we go. So how fast are the chargers? So in answer to everybody's question on how fast the charge is, each charger type has a different maximum charge rate. So if you're charging at home, I spend less time charging an EV than I do filling a gas tank on an ICE car. I don't drive to gas stations. I don't stand out in the snow putting gas in the tank, all right? I don't spend any time at the gas station, except I get a coffee sometimes, which is kind of fun to park my Tesla in the gas station and go in and get a coffee. Okay, then 50 miles in less than 4 hours of charge while I sleep at home. I'm sleeping, the car's charging, it's done when I get up. I have an 80% full tank each morning only because I set it for 80%. I don't even bother charging it to 100. I don't need those extra miles. And if I do need the extra miles, I tell the car to go to 100. Like if I'm going downstate, if I'm going over to Mackinac City, you know that's a drive. That's a 3-hour drive. If I'm going to Mackinac City, I tell the car to charge to 100% the night before. I get in, it's at 100%, away I go. At 80%, which is about 200 miles of daily range, you rarely have to recharge the same day. It's the least expensive recharge is charging at home. That's why I get the 4 cents a mile, is because I charge at home. Charging on a long trip, away from the home charger, how fast is a fast charger? They're not all the same. How fast can the car charge? That's another thing that's not the same. And we'll go through that a little bit. So how fast are the chargers? Hotels, work, malls, casinos usually offer like a level 2 charger if they offer anything at all. And you get up to 19 kilowatts based on that. That's the biggest power that that adapter will take. And it's sometimes called the destination charger. You get 15 or 20 miles an hour. Sometimes they're free because if you're charging a commercial rate of electricity, that company, that organization they're only paying 6 cents a kilowatt hour. So for you to sit there at 7 kilowatts for an hour costs them like less than 50 cents. So they say, oh yeah, fine, you can charge for free. Well, yeah, okay, you're going to be there shopping for an hour. They don't care. It's 50 cents, big deal. So give it away. Some park RVs, some RV parks with 50 amp service. You didn't think about that. But RV parks have 50 amp service for the big RVs. That 50 amp service would charge your car. But you'll have to talk to the guy who runs the place. And then there's the public fast chargers. They vary from 50 kilowatts, 50 microwave ovens, to 350 microwave ovens. It depends on which charger you go to. And you can go 30 miles per hour to more than 1,000 miles per hour of charge. And it tapers down from there. Now, the Inflation Reduction Act, this government act, is encouraging with $623 million in grants. And I hear people say, well, yeah, well, they haven't built any of the damn things yet. Well, it's not the government's job. The government's just giving a grant saying, go build it. And if they haven't built it yet, it's not the government's fault. The government's saying the money's available, go do it. Right? So they're giving grants trying to build out American-made networks of chargers, including 500,000 publicly available chargers by 2030. That's the goal. And apps provide locations and details. I like to use for people just to get a general idea, a application called PlugShare. We're going to look at it here in a second. The trouble with people thinking about chargers is that the chargers don't have that great big neon lit sign that says, charge your car here. No, I mean, there's nothing in Myers at all that tells you that that charger is there. Sometimes the chargers are in a hotel parking lot. Sometimes they're in the back of a gas station. Sometimes they're over in a far distant corner of the mall. All right. You don't know unless you go looking. And so since you don't go looking, you think there aren't any. And that's not true. There are a lot. So let's take a look here briefly at this is that plug share application. And let's go into Marquette. And I'll show you. Now, green is good, but gold is great. All right. So these green stations, another green station down here in Harvey. This is the North Coast Place. That's that little hotel down there by the car wash. That's got a car station, a charging station behind it. Here is the Lower Harbor. That one's closed off because they got all that construction going there. This is the one in the parking garage. Here's one over here at Staybridge Suites, but you got to be a customer of theirs and go inside the parking garage. There's a charger in there. There is one that's going in up north by the Upper Harbor, and that one's by the Superior Watershed. That one's going to be putting in 2 chargers there. Here we've got another one at Riverside Toyota, another one here at Fox Marquette, and here we've got at Myers, we've got 2 chargers. We've got the Meyer charger, and behind that we see a Tesla charger. So there's chargers just here in Marquette, and if I back out, we'll start to see some of the other chargers in the area. Remember, green is good, gold is great. All right. And here they're starting to show up. Okay. So I just went a little bit. All right. And that's what's nice about this app. This app tells you where almost all of them are. And so with this app, you can find chargers all over the place. So when you go, even if you keep backing out farther and go like nationwide, it just starts to get ridiculous. Remember, green is good, gold is great. Okay, so there's a lot of stuff out there. There's more than you think there are. And that's the reason I can go from Marquette to Seattle, Washington, and not have a problem. Yes.
So on your trip to Seattle, approximately,
Mhm.
every night,
That's coming right next.
okay,
Watch this.
I want to hear some real experience.
Man, you are the man to have in this program. I can tell you. Okay, here we are.
Follow you around.
All right. This is a Tesla universal wall connector for $600. Remember that was your other question, how much they cost? $600. This will charge any car. It will charge a Tesla or a non-Tesla, $600 for the unit. This is what you put in your garage. There's a Tesla connector and a J1772 connector inside this. You can get it for $425. Ooh, oh yeah, but this is the new one. This is the universal.
Okay, is that a 120 hookup?
No, this is a 240.
Okay.
All right. So this is a 240. This will give you the whole 11 kilowatt hours. Sorry, the whole 11 kilowatts of power. This will give you all that. Yeah, you do not have this plug for J1772. If somebody comes up with a Hyundai or something, or a Chevy Bolt, you won't be able to charge their car with your charger unless he's got an adapter. All right. But this one, he doesn't need an adapter because both of these connectors are right inside this port. You just pick the one you want and you can charge the cars. Okay. So this is a level 2 indoor or outdoor. Even if you don't have a garage, you can put this on the side of your house. That works too. It's rated for outdoors. Hospitality properties, workplaces, and you have the option of pay for use because these things are Wi-Fi connected. So you can do all that stuff too. And you can get up to 44 miles of range per hour. And Tesla has secured a deal last year to deploy 20,000 of these at 2,000 Hilton hotels. Then Choice Hotels made an announcement of an agreement with Tesla to offer Tesla universal wall connectors to participating Radisson, Cambria, Comfort, Country Inn and Suites, Quality Inn, and other hotels all across the United States. So you're going to see more and more. And that was just done this year, all right? Just last month. So these things are on their way. This charger problem is going to go away. Here is my route to Rochester Hills, Michigan from Marquette. All right. This is my computer screen in the car. I said, I want to go to Rochester Hills, Michigan. And the car said, okay, here we go. And it plotted out the route for me. It said, first top off in Marquette for about 20 minutes. And you're at 45% now. Top off for about 20 minutes and then drive over to Mackinac. Now, by the way, these numbers is 8 here, 8 here, and 8 here is telling me there are 8 open chargers just waiting for me to use them in each of these spots. So I get in the car, I drive down the scenic stretch. I take, what is it, 177 or something like that, and I head over across the bridge. And as soon as I get across the bridge, right by that Shepler's parking lot is where the Tesla chargers are. I park there, and right across the street, there's a really nice restaurant. I go to that restaurant, we have lunch, I get done with lunch. By the way, that was a 3-hour drive, so I'm ready for a little stretch anyway. I get out of the car, I go have lunch, I have lunch. As soon as I'm done with lunch, car's ready to go. It's coming. Okay, so the car routes me to the suitable chargers and preconditions the car before I even get there. So the battery's up, so I can go in the dead of winter, and the batteries will be at the right temperature when I get there. The car knows. It shows how much battery is left and how many chargers are available and how long it's going to be for me to charge in that spot. The range estimates are getting more accurate every month. And you can see here, Marquette was the first one, and I was there for 20 minutes. Mackinac City, after I did the scenic stretch, 45 minutes. I got there at 15% battery. I'm going to get there at 15% battery. 45 minutes, I'm going to be back at full power. I'm going to get to Bay City with 12%. I'll be there for 25 minutes, and then I'm going to be back in Rochester Hills. That's the car does all this by itself. Oh, maybe a little hour longer, an hour longer. But, you know, I'm not the guy who's going to sit there and go, oh, I'm not bringing I'm not doing that. I want to get up and walk around a little bit.
So you had to charge up twice.
I just charged, well, yeah, I mean, I started here with a charge, but then after that, I only charged twice and I made it to Rochester Hills.
Right. So it almost seems like, I don't know what the Tesla, she said, charges up. She's good at.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, no doubt.
So, say max, using the Halo charge up. It's about an hour's charge up. And the cost is what? I mean, when you.
That's coming. It's coming. Here we go. All right. Now, I do want to mention that this stretch on 75 is 75, 80 miles an hour.
I understand.
Okay. So I'm sucking up a lot of power going down to Bay City. Okay. Just so you know. So this.
That's all part of Tesla's program.
Yeah.
It's all integrated in the two.
That's the reason Tesla chargers are famous. The other chargers are okay, good, but Tesla is famous. They've got the best system for charging. And again, I'm not trying to push Tesla because now the other cars can charge a Tesla too. So that's good. Okay, so how fast do the batteries charge? Not all batteries charge at the same rate. So take a look at this. This answers first how fast you're going to charge your car. When you're only 10% charged, you get the full capacity of your charge rate. And in fact, if you look at your sheet, which you have here, and I think I skipped that part. If you look at your sheet, here's the maximum charge rate. The Chevy Bolt can't charge faster than 55 kilowatts. That's it. Even if you put it on a 350 kilowatt charger, it will not take more than 55. So it's going to charge slower. The same thing for the Nissan Leaf, maximum 100. That's the new Nissan Leaf, maximum 100. Then you go to Hyundai Ioniq 6, it'll charge up to 350 at one time. Then Tesla Model 3, 250, Volkswagen 175, my car, take 250, no problem. I've seen it do it many times. The Kia 233, the Mustang 150, the Lucid Air 300. And what's interesting to me is the F-150 Lightning has a huge battery and it will only take up to 150 kilowatts, which is kind of a weird thing, but that's just the way they built it. So it charges more slowly than my Tesla does, even though it's got twice the battery capacity. So that's a weird condition. The Hummer, though, fortunately, does 350. So that's the difference. Okay. Now let's see if I messed up here. Yep, I did. I'm good. All right. So here's the situation. Notice that when the batteries are close to empty, you get the full charge. Then as the batteries fill up, the charge slows down. And when you get to 80%, you're only charging at maybe 50 kilowatts. And so that's the answer to your question. If you only got 70 or, a 30% charge, how long does it take to fill? Well, it depends on your car, and it depends on how charged your battery is. If you're 70%, you're almost half of what your maximum rate is, and it's going to get slower from that point on. The equivalent is like saying you're going to a movie theater and you're the first one in the theater. You can sit any place you want. And then when you go to a movie theater, a different show, and the place is packed, you got to walk around and find yourself a seat. Oh, there's one that's open, and we'll sit there. And that's the way the batteries are. So when they're almost empty, wham, you throw in a bunch of power in it. When it's pretty full, they charge more slowly. And so that doesn't quite give me the opportunity to say, oh, it only takes 10 minutes. I can't say that. All right, so here's the Tesla now. Here's the old software and the new software. New software says, yeah, I can start at 250, and then I just gradually keep charging at a slower and slower rate as I go fuller and fuller and fuller. And then by the time I get to 80%, where's 80%? Right here, I'm only charging at 60 kilowatts. I started at 250. I'm charging at 60 kilowatts. From 80% on, it's going to be slower and slower. So that last tail end, that's the reason a lot of people don't charge past 80%, is that last tail end is really slow. The first half is great. The last end is slow.
You'll get the payload wherever you get. And the car, you know, so it's going to recommend that it'll tell you that it's small. But that gets you to whatever you want. In order to make it so. Oh, I ideally drive from here to Detroit. I like to make one stop. Which road's halfway.
Gaylord is good.
So
Just relax.
I'm so I could charge, say, 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And
You'll be full.
That 45-minute charge.
You'll be full.
Approximately cost.
How are you gonna get there? I'm getting there. Okay.
I don't know how many days it took you to get from here to Seattle.
I think I made it in 2 days. But see, all right, this is a little bit of a distraction. The car has what is called camping mode in it, right? And with camping mode, I can sleep in the back of the car. And because it's an electric car, I'm not running the engine. I just run the heat pump, and it's climate controlled. It's got dog mode too. You can leave your dog in it, and a display comes up on the screen. It says, it's okay. The temperature in here is at 70 degrees. It's all under control. You don't have to break the window to get the dog out. All right. And it says that right in the car. So yeah, it keeps it cool for the doggies. So I sleep in the back of the car on these trips. And then if I get up at 4 a.m, I go, I think I'll go drive for a while. And I drive for a while, then I take a break later on, I'm parking in parking lots in dark, shady corners. So, but it's very comfortable, and dehumidified even. I mean, I'm not fogging up the windows or anything. It's great. It is a nice feature. I can't get my wife to do it, but I do it. So, okay. So how fast can the car charge? This is another factor that comes into play. And we already kind of talked about that a little bit. So let me move on past that. It depends on the connector on your car. Level 2 charging, meaning the charge that goes in your garage uses a connector that's shaped like this. And this puts AC into your car. It takes AC from the wall, puts it into the car. The car changes it to DC and charges the battery. All right, but it uses a connector like this, and that connector is called the J1772 connector. Then, if you want to go fast charging, you have this connector also on your car. It's the same connector, like this connector and this connector are the same connector. All right, but there's an additional piece on DC fast charging. These 2 pins down here for the DC power, and that skips the AC part. And when you go to a high-speed charger, it puts DC from the Tesla chargers or from America, Electrify America, takes DC power, puts it right into the battery directly. There's no AC involved at all. So it's directly DC power. That goes anywhere from 50 kilowatts to 350 kilowatt hours. I'm sorry, 350 kilowatts of DC power. Now, Tesla uses the same connector for both. And since that seems to work out really well, it has now become what they call the North American Charging Standard. And it's also called SAE J3400. And this does everything now. And all the new cars coming out in 2025 are going to be using this connector. So this stuff is going to go away. Now, the Nissan is the only car that uses this connector called CHAdeMO. But that's because that was the Japanese standard. This was the European standard. This was the Japanese standard. And now Tesla has come up with the American standard, and all the car manufacturers are going to the American standard. Okay. March 2024, Ford EVs can use that network. They're providing free adapters so you can charge. And in 2025, all the manufacturers are using this connector. So non-Tesla chargers will provide a connector for that. All right, cost of a supercharge. Here we go. The fast chargers have different minimum rates. And let's take a look here. Back on our sheet again. I'm saying that if here's the different connectors for the cars. Tesla NACS is for the Model 3 and the Model Y. Everybody else is using that J1772 for slow speed and the CCS connector for fast speeds. And if I go a little farther over, hours to charge for 50 miles at a 32 amp charger, which is a medium size 7 kilowatt garage charger. It'll take a couple hours to do 50 miles. Then at home, $2.20 to go 50 miles. Look what the gas cars are doing. $4.56 for the hybrid Honda. F-150, $8.80 to go 50 miles. My Tesla, $2.05 to go 50 miles. That's charging at home. So to go 100 miles, I just double those prices. And I'm going into gallons now. 250 miles, okay, big deal. I'm just multiplying. Cost per mile, almost all the electric cars are 4 or 5 cents a mile. Trucks are 7 to 10 cents a mile. And the hybrid is about 9 cents a mile. Subaru Outback, 15 cents a mile. And your truck is 18 cents a mile.
So, 4 cents a mile. Rochester Hills is about 400 miles, right?
Yeah, 16 bucks.
$16.
Yep. Home charging. Okay. See this thing down here? It says super cost. That's where I'm going next. I'm going to finally get to that answer of yours. Here you go. I promised I would. Here we go. What does it cost to supercharge? All right. So in Marquette, when I first started charging, they were charging on this tiered rate. They didn't charge per kilowatt. They charged per minute. All right. They charge per minute. And depending on how much power you're putting in the car, then the minute charge changed. So initially, when I went in to Marquette with a very empty car, I got 11 minutes of tier 4, which is over 180 kilowatts. And then, as I say, it keeps tapering down. Then it tapered down to the next tier, which is tier 3, 13 minutes. And then I was down at this part here for 2 minutes. And I said, well, I'm not waiting any longer. I'm leaving. And so that was a total of $19.18. But the price on electricity at the supercharger has gone down since then. This is a more recent one, Mackinac City. I got to Mackinac City and 61 kilowatt hours at 34 cents a kilowatt hour. That's what they charged. There was by kilowatt hour. This is by minute. This one's by kilowatt hours. And it was $20.74 to get to Mackinac City. So then it was 34 cents for 32 kilowatt hours, and that was $10 to go from Mackinac City to Bay City. So this one cost me about $30 to get to Rochester Hills,
Well, that base
about
is-
twice the price.
Oh, cause you got around $30, so that's about.
Yeah,
that's
twice
like
the
the
price.
of gas from me, so that's like $40 to $60.
Yeah, so it was $30 for me to get from Marquette, because I was already charged at Marquette, and then to get to Rochester Hills. Okay, see, I told you I was going to answer the question. All right. Okay, so that was our super cost. So to go 250 miles, these cars about $25. The Mustang is 30. The Rivian is 40. The Hummer is 55. The Honda's 22. The Outback is 38, and your truck would cost $44. And that's at $3.70 a gallon for gas. Okay. So let's move on here. All right, 10,000 miles. I know. Pounds of CO2. Okay, well, there's no CO2 here, but let's go take a look at this other question about charging with power, with different kinds of power. Charging with fossil or grid electricity. That again addresses, see, I'm hitting all the highlights here. This is a wonderful stuff. So RVs really better for the environment. All right, so here is the annual emissions per vehicle. This is the national averages for fuel. All right, because each power company has a different combination, but this is the national averages for fuel. And so if you go the national average and you're driving about 12,000 miles per year, you're putting 6 tons of carbon dioxide in the air per year. Then if you're a hybrid, it's about half that. If you're a plug-in hybrid, it's a little less than a regular hybrid. And if you're charging your car with generic electricity, you're still only at about 1/3 of a gasoline car. So you've cut out 2/3 of your carbon dioxide emissions by driving electric.
Now, you're saying that the electric car, the power plant that you get your electricity.
Yes, the power plant put that electricity, those emissions out there. So that's the electricity created by the power plant as it made electricity that you put in your car. All right, so here now is the difference between cars. The car's total emissions. This is the Nissan Leaf, 62 kilowatt hour battery. And notice here that the Nissan Leaf emits more carbon dioxide on construction than the gas car does. It takes less CO2 to make a gas car than it does to make an electric car. But after 2 years, assuming that it's only doing what, 14,000 miles a year, after 14,000 miles, after 2 years, all of a sudden the gas car is emitting much more than the electric car is. The electric car is only emitting a small amount from the power company per year. And what's interesting is if you charge with renewable energy over 15 years, that's the maximum amount, 12 tons for the electric car, where the gas car is 96 tons over 15 years. All right, so that's the big difference in emissions for a gas car versus an electric car. But electricity is getting cleaner. And this is something that is going on around the world right now. You can't make gasoline cleaner. They've been trying, you can't do it, all right? So France now requires all parking lots, new and existing, with more than 80 spaces to be covered with solar panels. Now, I think that's kind of a good idea. I mean, it keeps them in the shade and makes electricity at the same time. And then you can have chargers at every parking lot. Wouldn't that be cool? All right, just think, chargers in every parking lot. That would be wonderful. All right, so now let's take a look further on your sheet. That's the CO2. Okay, buying or leasing a vehicle. This is next, we're almost at the end. I know it's these chairs are not the most comfortable, but we're getting close to the end. So who should buy or lease a new or used EV? So my recommendation, every 2-car family, at least one of those cars should be electric. I don't see any reason why not. All right, every 2-car family, one of them should be electric. And you can buy, there's all kinds of websites selling electric cars. then you're getting a new car today. It should be electric. Otherwise, you are promising to buy gasoline for 5 more years. You bought a gas car. Congratulations. You're going to buy gasoline for 5 more years. You're going to put another 6 tons per, another 30 tons of carbon dioxide in the air, guaranteed. And that's if you only drive it for 5 more years. So I think we should not be buying new gas cars anymore. Now, 10 EVs for lease for under $400 a month. The Ioniq 5, the Solterra, the Nero, the Ioniq 6, and the Model Y, all leased for under $400 a month. And there's more. And there is a leasing guide. If you want to know about leasing an electric vehicle, just put in EV lease guide into the internet and you'll get the guide and it'll help you out. This is my last slide. So what do you think? What do you think? Fire this is the last chance you get to just tear my whole program apart. Go ahead. Yes, she's going to volunteer to do it. Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm. I wanted to get the test. I ordered them directly from Tesla because I wanted the tire pressure monitors already installed and everything totally installed. I just got the whole thing as a unit, the wheels, the tire pressure monitor, and the tire. And so I got 4 of those. I put them in the back of the car and I drove them home. And then in the fall, I just jacked up the car, switched the tires, let it back down again, and I'm good for the winter. That was the reason. Yeah, I just bought them from Tesla. No. I did get Oh, by the way, they don't come with spares. There's no spare tire. I don't know about the other electric cars, but mine did not come with a spare. So I carry around a small battery powered pressure pump, air pump, and I keep that in my front trunk, my frunk. And this way, if I have a leaker, I just take the tire pump out, I pump up the tire and I drive it until it starts getting low again.
You got a trunk in the back.
It's parked right outside here. We should go take a look.
Okay, what I'm saying is probably buy yourself a little donut.
You bet.
Because you can shred a tire, and your pump's not gonna do you any good.
Right. You could. And that's an issue.
That's what my Malibu. Didn't have spare tires.
All right. Well, we'll take a look when we get out there.
But I got a question.
Yes.
I doubt if you have a chart.
I don't, because this is my last slide.
I have 150 and I bought a sliding camper.
Okay.
So I get 18 to 20 on the highway. I put that camper on and I was a little disappointed. I get like 10 or 11.
Okay.
So could I pretty much expect to cut my range in half on an electric truck with a camper on it like that?
It'll cost you. I don't know. Well, you're not going to put a camper on the truck. Well, are you talking about the Tesla truck?
I'm talking about
An electric truck, like a Lightning.
Okay.
Okay.
With a slide-in camper,
Okay.
right? So I'm assuming you like,
Well, probably.
okay. So
Actually, my buddy just bought a tent that
okay.
he puts on it, so
Well,
it collapses down. But yours is going to weigh more. Okay.
So so I could probably depend on cut my range almost.
I would guess so. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's going to be half. Although, all right, so here's another issue that I didn't mention about electric trucks. They have plenty of power, but they don't have as endurance. So my buddy's F-150 Lightning is rated to pull 5,000 pounds, which isn't a lot. If you get the towing package, it's rated to pull 10,000 pounds, which includes extra batteries and some other hardware for towing. All right, then it'll pull 10,000 pounds. But if you pull 10,000 pounds, and I have an RV that weighs 11,000 pounds, if you pull 10,000 pounds with this truck, you'll only go 150 miles and you'll be done. So you'll have to charge every 150 miles. So they have power. They can take you up the steepest grade with the heaviest load, no problem. They have power, but they don't have endurance.
With the gas F-150, I'm stopping at a 200.
Okay, well then maybe it's, especially with your camper on it.
That's what I mean. with
Yeah.
the camper.
Yeah, all right, well, it might be about
It'll be
the
less.
same. It'll be less. This is without a camper, but it's pulling a heavy load, you're doing 150 miles max. So, all the truck, yes, sir.
Okay, one of the things I've been thinking about is right now I buy gasoline, part of the money on that gas goes to pay for the roads. When I charge electricity on my home, I'm not.
When you go to register your car, they're gonna charge you an extra $100 for road tax.
Okay, that's all.
That's all.
There's gonna be additional taxes.
There are additional taxes right now, and I'll bet you that's gonna change in time.
It's gonna-
It's gonna be based on mileage or something, you know. Yes.
Therefore, they have to have that charge. You need money for the roads.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. 4,500 pounds. My Model Y is 4,500. Well, also you have to get special load rated tires for those cars because they're generic load rating.
Okay.
So they're gonna be special tires for.
We talk Norwegian. Yeah, well. I think different ways. And.
Well, thank you, everyone, because I can see we I don't know how long we went, probably forever.
Questions I got.
Sure.
One.
Oh, so it's gas and oil.
It's gonna take a bump.
No, part of that Inflation Reduction Act is to move everything in the United States. The Eagle mine here, I think, is the only working nickel mine in the country. And so any nickel for nickel iron cobalt batteries is going to be probably coming from that mine. There was a question that I saw online. Somebody was talking about rare earths, but rare earths are only used in magnets, not in batteries. And so the rare earth mining is not going to, and plus rare earths are not rare. They are just not concentrated like copper would be, but they're very abundant. And so you can get rare earths from a lot of different places. And so that's not an issue as far as the cars are concerned, because magnets in any kind of a magnet, there are magnets in the car, they only use the rare earth metal used in the magnets in an electric car is about 1.25 pounds of the entire car. So 1.25 pounds is rare earth material. So it's not a big draw there. The batteries are 100% recyclable. Currently, China is making a huge number of batteries for a lot of the car manufacturers here in this country, because China is one of the countries that started with lithium mines. And someone said they were there looking at that and it was kind of a mess. All right. But we're moving that. And I showed you that slide earlier about the McDermott mine out in Nevada. And that's going to obviously have to meet all the new standards for lithium mining. And that's going to be providing a lot of domestic lithium. Plus, there's another deposit in Mexico that is very, very big. And I guess there's another one someplace else in the United States that's very big. So lithium is something that's going to be very available here in the United States. Yes, it's going to be another mine, but everything we do, as long as the population keeps growing, we're going to need more and more stuff from somewhere. It's going to come from somewhere. And that's the reason you want to be as efficient as possible. And that's the reason that I think you should go with electric cars. That Bolt, my daughter drove a Bolt as a rental. She loved it. And she's driven 3 other cars since then. And she says, you know, that Bolt was the nicest car. And that's a little car. Well, a lot depends on, I mean, you know, you got a family of 4 or something, or a family of 6 or 8 or whatever they used to have in the old days. But you're gonna need a bigger vehicle. But for most people, and consuming your driving habits, and especially a 2-car family, you get one electric car, and if it's a nice small car, it won't cost hardly anything, and you'll wind up driving that car most of the time.
There was.
What are they spending that money on? Like I said, I didn't. How much you guys spend on maintenance? None? Okay, you had tires put on. That didn't cost you $600. Yeah, and I have not, it's not been recommended. I have no oil change.
I'm talking about the comparison. He's talking the
But you
comparison.
run them year round?
Yeah. Right.
No. But the snow tires were $2,000.
Yeah, they were.
Okay, Tom?
I just spent 16 for the truck.
I'm sorry, Tom? I've spent 0. They've spent 0.
The reason I said that.
They're moving away from it because of maintenance costs. But I believe, not certain about it, but I think it was repairs of, in aluminum. Could be a factor. They're counting parking lots, small little, very expensive. In terms of. Then I think what the
Yeah, that's people are concerned about, but I guess to say something about rentals like Hertz. I can't tell you how many times that I watch a YouTube video about I rented a this or that, and here's my horrible story, right? And here's what happened. You go rent a car, and they just, yeah, pick one out of the lot. And you walk into the lot, and well, let's go drive that one. You have no electric car. You don't know where the chargers are. You don't know how to charge it. You don't know. Like videos about this woman trying to put gas in an electric car. Didn't know it was an electric car, right? So this is and then they make a YouTube video. Oh, that was a disaster. And it was because they knew absolutely nothing about electric cars. And that's the problem with the rental agents. Like my daughter, she just walked in and just drove it away. Nobody told her anything. She had me. She called me. I thought, okay. And that was it. So I have an issue with rental agencies and electric.
So the test, when he's telling you, no owners manual.
It's online.
The dealer just told him, he's asking him all kinds of questions. Just buy it and figure it out.
No, there's yes, and you go pick it up.
One for each. And within 5 minutes.
But they had a whole series of videos that you can watch. The videos are really good.
Okay.
So they provide that.
One, when we have one and it's necessary for us to track the site. So, I would, you know, make my little turn in my. Really?
Yes, very good, very good. And you, I just, you may have more questions, but you did have a question and I never got to it. What was it?
Well, you're comparing the cost of gasoline cars and drivers. You can't figure out how high they're going. I think probably a lot of it is you're paying the guy at the gas station to change the oil and grease it. All that
Oh, for the maintenance costs in a gas car.
sounds like it. The electric car doesn't have that maintenance.
No. And this, yeah, you get software. Actually, I got a software update coming now, but all I do is just park it and put it on the network and the software just comes down and it gets updated. No, no.
See, that's like my main concern. I'm going to. I'm looking to get another car soon, but my main concern is reliability. Years out, don't cross it out, and that's my, if I get.
First of all, most electric cars don't have. That won't happen.
Yeah.
All right, well, they do have a fixed gearbox, but there's no transmission. And so the simplification, meaning the grossly reduced number of parts that are in the car, I think makes a big difference. There's fewer things to break. You know, the only thing that bothers me about my car in particular is that everything's got a little switch behind it to unlock the glove box and unlock the trunk and unlock the back door and unlock the fuel cover and up, you know, and there's got to be these little unlocking things all over the place. Unlock all the doors and unlock this, and maybe one of those will fail, but I don't hear a whole lot about that. So I know there's a lot of stuff there. Because you do regenerative braking. Remember I said when you take your foot off, it slows down. It doesn't use the brakes to do that, slow down. It's like engine braking, all right? So, except that it's kind of an extreme case of engine braking. When you take your foot off the pedal, the car literally just slows down. Really long time. So I'm never going back to a gas car. There's no advantage in my mind. Yes. 40,000.
You know how like, if you're going uphill and you're driving a gas powered vehicle, you step on the accelerator a little bit more to maintain your speed. And then if you're going downhill, back off on the accelerator. How does that function with electric vehicles?
It's going to take care of your power because it comes slow.
Right.
As you go downhill, it's going to automatically keep the speed even by doing automatic braking and putting the energy back in the battery. So even on these big electric trucks that are coming out of a Donner Pass or something, out west, they use a lot of battery going up to the top of the mountain, and then when they turn and drive back down, they get most of their battery power back again.
So they're not having to change how.
No, this thing regulates. Cruise control. Now, cruise control, you don't even notice it. It's just, well, let me take in the car and it says, no, you're regenerating. And regenerating is slowing it down.
Don't use that in winter time, right?
Yes, sir. You're gonna love it. Sneak peek is, I'm gonna tell you stuff about forests and about reforestation and growing baby trees versus big trees and what to look for in a forest. And how important is this and what other options do you have? Those are all the factors that are going to be covered in this topic. But I can guarantee you, you're going to get information out of that program that you're going to go, really? Huh. And I'm going to tell you things about trees that you never thought you knew before. I'm hoping for an Emmy.
Okay, so this is.
Very interesting.
Thank you.
Great information.
Great, thank you.
For live talks. I'll be there.
Yeah, all right. No, you cannot go with that with the wheels on the ground. Drag them with the wheels on the air. They have to do